Imagine signing an alliance today that's meant to last 100 years, not 10, not 20, a century. That's exactly what the United Kingdom and Ukraine did in January 2025. And this deal isn't just about wartime support. It's about shaping Europe's future security, technology, and economy. Let's dive in. When Prime Minister Keir Starmer visited Kyiv in January 2025, he and President Volodymyr Zelensky signed the so-called 100-year partnership agreement. At its core, the treaty states the UK will stand with Ukraine not just for the duration of the current war, but through Ukraine's reconstruction, defense industry buildup, technological future, and economic rebirth. This matters because it marks a shift from reactive wartime aid to a long-term strategic partner. Ukraine is moving from being the recipient of assistance to being a co-creator of its future with UK help. This signature deal cannot be separated from Britain's own story. After Brexit, London has been working to redefine its global role. The Ukraine agreement signals we're still deeply committed to European security, and we're prepared to put resources, vision, and influence behind it. The UK government described the treaty as formalizing the unbreakable bonds between the UK and Ukraine, broadening and deepening the relationship across defense and non-military areas. From the UK's perspective, my interpretation, this is about maintaining influence in Eastern Europe, protecting strategic interests, especially in the Black Sea and beyond, and positioning British defense and tech industry as central players. Of course, there is skepticism. Some analysts call the century-long pledge a meaningless political stunt, given shifting global politics and a changing US posture. So yes, it is bold, but the question remains, can a 100-year commitment be sustained? More on that later. The treaty identifies 9 key pillars. For our purposes, let's zoom in on 4 of the most tangible ones: defense and security, technological and scientific cooperation, economic and reconstruction, and maritime security. According to the treaty text, the UK and Ukraine commit to deep defense cooperation, building defense industrial capabilities, transferring technology, and aligning Ukraine's military systems with Western standards, NATO compatible. On the maritime front, Article 3 of the agreement explicitly talks about restoring freedom of navigation and building a maritime security partnership in the Baltic Sea, Black Sea, and Sea of Azov. On the economic and clean energy side, there are commitments to strengthen investment and trade, infrastructure, energy modernization, and inclusive growth, reducing inequality and leaving no one behind. In short, this deal covers everything from warships to wind farms, from missiles to mobile apps. In purely military terms, this partnership signals a deeper UK-Ukraine defense relationship. The agreement states the parties will work on joint defense industrial production, technology transfer, and co-development. For Ukraine, that means transitioning from being heavily reliant on external suppliers to developing more in-house capability with UK help. For the UK, that means deeper embedding into Ukraine's security architecture and the region. There is also a maritime dimension. The treaty commits the UK and Ukraine to strengthening maritime security in seas where Russian influence is strong, the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov among them. Training, interoperability, and long-term industrial ties are embedded in the agreement. The UK's role is not just provider, it becomes a partner in design. My view, this is one of the more robust parts of the treaty because, if enacted, it changes the baseline. It is not just the UK helps Ukraine fight today, but the UK and Ukraine build a shared defense future. Here is a fun part. The UK-Ukraine partnership does not only cover bullets and warships. The treaty makes explicit references to technology transfer, defense industrial capability building, and aligning with NATO systems. In practice, Ukraine's defense industry, which has been improvising under fire, now gets a partner with decades of experience. UK industry gains access to a motivated partner in Ukraine. What does this look like? Joint development of drones, cyber defense, space technology applications, and agro-technology for Ukraine's recovery. This is partly interpretation, but grounded in what the treaty allows. For example, an early initiative named TechBridge is referenced in the treaty, aiming to facilitate mutual commercial interests and support innovation. So the 100-year partnership has a technology edge, building capability, not just receiving it. That is a shift in mindset. Now the war will end one day and rebuilding begins. The treaty recognizes this. Article 4 covers economic and trade cooperation, investment, infrastructure, energy, and modernization. The UK pledged annual support of approximately £3 billion, about $3.6 billion US, in military aid to Ukraine. But this is not just about weapons, it is about rebuilding towns, green industries, veteran-led businesses, and economic resilience. The treaty talks about inclusive investment to reduce inequality and ensure no one is left behind. In practical terms, think of rebuilding steel plants or transport networks destroyed by war, but with the aim of making them state-of-the-art, green, and export-oriented. So the partnership spans from battlefield to rebuilding yard. We have covered what the deal does. Let us explore why it matters strategically. This agreement signals the UK positioning itself as a long-term guarantor for Ukraine's security and rebuild, not just a wartime donor. For Ukraine, it sends a message to Moscow and beyond. You are not just fighting today, your opponent has friends that plan for the next century. For Britain, it is about remaining a global power after Brexit, anchoring defense and tech commitments, preserving influence in Europe's east, and positioning UK industry in future markets. As an opinion, I believe this is one of the clearest signs yet that the UK does not intend to drift into irrelevance after Brexit, at least in the security domain. Unsurprisingly, Moscow did not welcome this treaty. On the 17th of January 2025, the Russian government warned any British military role in Ukraine under the deal would be of concern. On the 18th of January, Russia's Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova called parts of the agreement a gross interference in Russia's affairs. She specifically mentioned the Sea of Azov region and warned of firm resistance. From Moscow's perspective, this is more than assistance to Ukraine. It is a deeper Western military-industrial presence near Russia's border. This reaction underscores an important point. The treaty is not just about capability, it is also a signal, and it matters. And for a light touch of humor, Russia essentially said, "You cannot play in our backyard." But the UK and Ukraine replied, "We are renovating the whole house." For all its ambition, the 100-year partnership comes with real-world questions. The House of Lords International Agreements Committee in Britain noted that while the treaty is promising, it lacks detail on how exactly the activities will be implemented and the timeline for many of its goals. One opinion piece argued the century-long pledge could be more symbolic than operational. Global politics shift, budgets change, and leaders change. That is an opinion, not a fact. Political winds change, governments in the UK and Ukraine will change, public priorities shift, and economic resources may tighten. Ukraine's wartime trajectory and speed of reconstruction will also affect the deal's stamina. In short, it is bold, but the long term will depend on consistency, execution, and the external environment. One critical piece that threads through the agreement is Ukraine's ambition to join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and the role the UK can play in that integration. The treaty acknowledges Ukraine's integral role in Euro-Atlantic peace and stability and refers to interoperability with Western defense systems. For Ukraine, closer alignment with NATO standards means upgrading its armed forces, its systems, and its governance. For the UK, it means acting as a bridge between Ukraine and Western defense structures. This is significant because Ukraine joining NATO has been blocked by Russian opposition and internal Western divisions. The 100-year partnership does not guarantee accession, but it clearly pushes Ukraine further down that path. Beyond missiles and trade deals, the treaty also recognizes that long-term partnerships happen at the human level. The UK-Ukraine Declaration talks about scientific cooperation, education exchanges, cultural links, and lifelong friendships between the peoples of both nations. Programs for schools, universities, research centers, and veteran exchanges build resilience in society beyond defense and the economy. For a 100-year span, this part is essential. You are building a new generation of Ukrainians and Brits who view each other as partners. My view, if you only focus on tanks and economics, you miss half the story. The cultural dimension can be subtle, but it is foundational for longevity. So what could this look like in practice over decades? Picture a Ukraine with a modern defense industry owned jointly with British firms, a Ukrainian Air Force flying aircraft partially developed in UK-Ukraine factories, Black Sea maritime patrols run by UK-Ukraine crews, green energy plants built in Ukraine with UK technology and investment, veteran-led tech startups in Kyiv using UK incubation, student exchanges flowing both ways, and trade between the nations doubling or tripling. That is the aim of the treaty, long-term and transformative. My qualified view. If sustained, this partnership could become a model for how a major Western power partners with a frontline ally, not just to survive, but to become a resilient, integrated partner. But success is not guaranteed. The next decades will matter. As Starmer put it, we are with you not just today or tomorrow for 100 years. Here is the takeaway. The UK-Ukraine 100-year partnership is not just a headline. It is a statement of intent about security, rebuilding, technology, culture, and geopolitics. It places the UK in a renewed strategic role after Brexit, anchors Ukraine's long-term recovery and defense, and reshapes the chessboard of European security. Will it unfold exactly as planned? Only time will tell, but the stage is set and the players are already moving. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment with what you think this partnership will actually look like in 10 years or 50 years. Until next time, stay sharp and stay curious.